G'day folks, it's Phil from 15-Minute Guitar Practice here. If you have ever thrown away a song because you played it to somebody and they went, "Ah, that sounds exactly like insert famous song with famous artist," and you've gone, shit, and you've thrown it in the bin, let's not do that anymore. Let's figure out ways we can make our obvious or really famous chord progression sound less famous and less obvious and more like yours. All right, let's jump into that right now. Okay, what we're going to do is borrow from another genre of music so your chord progressions sound less obvious, more uniquely yours, and definitely not like you copied a famous song. But what genre are we going to borrow from? Oh wait, I'm wearing a fetching black polo neck. I have a guitar that's got a vintage sunburst and F-holes. It must be jazz. Yeah. Yeah, but we're not going to be playing any of that. We're just going to borrow concepts from jazz, because jazz is hard. Alright, we are going to borrow from jazz and use a dark and powerful magic. We are going to be using diminished chords. Yes, diminished chords. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, diminished chords suck. They sound like ass. I can't make them do anything. What? Was that Bill Burr? I don't know. Let's crack on. Yes, I know how you feel. Diminished chords do sound weird. You don't know how such weirdness can be incorporated in a song you write or how to play it over them. Maybe you don't even know any of the fingerings. So let's put those things to rest right now. Only 3 rules for diminished chords. 3 simple rules. The first rule is you can place a diminished chord before any major or minor chord. So pretty much anywhere. Okay, rule number 2 is when you place that diminished chord, it has to be placed 1 semitone, 1 fret below the chord you're about to change to. So if you were going to change to an E minor chord, you would need to play an E flat diminished chord. And the third rule is that typically, because you're introducing this new chord and don't want to interrupt the bar lengths, you don't want to increase if you've got like a 4-bar progression, you don't want to make it like 5 bars. So typically a diminished chord will steal half a bar or something like that from the chord prior. Now all that's a lot of talk. Let's hear what it sounds like, because it's a lot easier to hear. And it's a lot easier to understand when you hear it. So here's our progression. So we need to put a diminished chord before the E minor, and it needs to be 1 fret below the root of the E minor chord, which makes it an E flat, diminished 7. So the chord progression normally would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. But with the diminished chord inserted, it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear how that's immediately a bit more interesting. Diminished chords are dark and they are tense. But, you know, that tension is then released when you move to the chord after it. That's the idea. Now, if you're not happy with just putting 1 in, you can put more in. You can actually put a diminished chord between all of the chords in your progression, but I wouldn't recommend it. That's overkill and it will lose its intensity. Once or maybe twice is fine. So let's go ahead and do the twice. We're going to put it before the A minor, so it needs to be a semitone below the root A, so that would make it an A flat or a G sharp. And again, it will probably need to borrow half a bar of the chord that came before that. which is the E minor. So that whole thing would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. So that's how we can introduce some diminished chords into our chord progression so it sounds like you. Real life example, Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You. First go round, it's second time round she decides to get rid of the E minor chord completely and use instead the diminished chord that leads to the A minor. So the second time is Now, one other trick you can do is introduce a diminished chord instead of one of the chords in your progression. This is a very interesting thing, substituting a chord. Now, you can substitute the 5 chord in your progression with a 7 chord. You've got a D7, right? D7. And we're going to remove that D7 and place the 7th chord in the key in there instead. So the 7th chord in the key, we're in the key of G. Okay, if you don't know where the 7th chord is, you place your finger on the G, play up the G major scale, count to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is an F sharp. So we're going to be playing an F sharp diminished chord instead of our D7. And let's hear how that sounds. I'm going to get rid of all the other diminished chords we just put in our previous example and just focus on that one thing. So we've got So, what do you think of that? It's definitely more interesting than that, but very similar. It's a very similar sounding resolution. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It's a really simple way of introducing more color and more interest in your chord progressions to make them sound like yours. If you'd like the worksheet for this lesson, you can download it in the link below. And if you've enjoyed this lesson, please give me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. All right, this is Phil from 15 Minute Guitar Practice, saying bye for now. Cheers.